Hi, I'm Melanie Risdon with the Western Standard. Thanks for joining me for another edition of In Focus. Tonight, we are going to the glitz of Alberta's Hollywood. We're going to be talking about Alberta's film and television industry, and joining me is Tina Alford from ACTRA, which is the union that represents professional actors and performers. Hi, Tina.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so it's kind of exciting times here in Alberta. It's ebbed and flowed, but we seem to be in a fairly busy time when it comes to our film and television industry.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been fantastic. It's everything that we've been wishing for the past several decades, being so busy.
Yeah, and it really has ebbed and flowed. There have been times where we've been booming. I know we've had, big name stars here, Brad Pitt, we've had Leonardo DiCaprio, we've had some big names come our way in the past. And it's really ebbed and flowed. There was a point in time, though, that some I think maybe some legislation or some policy came into play that really kind of slowed the industry right to a crawl. Were you with ACTRA at the time? Do you know?
Yes. Well, I've been working in the industry for over 22 years, I believe. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, a lot of the film and television industry globally relies on incentives from different jurisdictions, to help lure the productions in to come and shoot their projects. So depending, on sort of who's in government, what the appetite is, the incentives in Alberta have, gone up and down, which of course has a direct implication on the level of production. I mean, there's also exterior factors like especially if we're looking at U.S. production, where the Canadian dollar sits, right? So if we're at par with the American dollar, not overly competitive. So sometimes, that can have an impact on production levels as well.
Sure. Now, what are some of the incentives that that can or can't, like it's kind of tax breaks or things like that? Are you familiar with some of the things that can kind of like boom and bust?
Well, so right now we have a tax incentive, and just a general overview. I don't think we need to get too much into the weeds here, but essentially, when a production wants to come and shoot in Alberta, to get the incentive, they apply. There's an application process, and they get a percentage back based on the amount of money that they spend in Alberta. And so, and that covers everything. That covers, working in the rural communities and, food and car rentals and gas, all the way up to labor. So the cast and the crew. And so the exciting thing, though, about the film and television incentive is they don't get the money up front. They actually get a percentage of what they spent after they've already spent their money in the province.
Right.
So it's pretty low risk. And when you're talking, some shows and some productions are dropping millions of dollars into rural communities, it is a really great investment.
Well, and for those that don't pay attention, I mean, there are some communities that are almost built specifically for the film and television industry. I know High River has done a huge amount of work to make that town sort of very appealing, and and I know it's been used. It's used for Heartland. It's used for, I know Tin Star was filming here a couple of years ago, and there's quite a few other shows that have kind of graced the streets of High River. Are there other communities that are doing the same?
Oh, absolutely. Obviously, the whole Drumheller region and the town of Drumheller, they've been a very film-friendly community, right? And they have a very specific look. So we get a lot of productions that go there that maybe want like some space age sort of looking, when they're shooting out in the Badlands. Irricana has had a lot of work, Carstairs, Bicycle. St. Paul in the northern part of the province, St. Paul outside of Edmonton, Stony Plain. Yeah, so a lot of small communities have benefited from film and television. And it's fantastic because like when they move in, the local cast and crew are going to the coffee shops and, dropping money in that community. So yeah,
That's
it
right.
definitely is a regional and a rural bonus to this industry.
Absolutely. And, a couple of things with that. As somebody who has worked with ACTRA, I have, and I know that there's a real push to have Alberta-based actors and Alberta-based background and Alberta,
Hmm.
there's incentive there. So really, I mean, not only are they supporting, some of the establishments in those areas, but it's also bringing a lot of work for people in the unions, whether you're with ACTRA or you're in the unions that support sort of the more technical side, like
Right.
IATSE.
Right.
It's bringing a lot of work to Albertans here.
Absolutely. I mean, so we see the headlines, right, of when a big show comes into town. Recently, Fargo, season 5. So I know there was a lot of headlines about John Hamm, from Mad Men fame, is one of the stars
Hmm.
of the show, which of course, who doesn't love him? And so you see those headlines, but what you don't see behind those headlines is the hundreds of people that are working up, like local Albertans that are working on that show, making a good wage. And so, they're not importing everybody in from the US,
That's right.
United States or elsewhere. It's local work, and they're great paying jobs.
And when you say hundreds, it is hundreds.
Yeah.
People who have not been on a set, if you could see the amount of work that's being done behind the scenes to have just, a day's shoot where you maybe are capturing 2 or 3 minutes worth of footage, but you do have hundreds of people, from caterers to drivers to grips to people doing lighting, all the way up to then the actors in the background and wranglers. And it's an incredible amount of people that come together to make this happen. So you're right. It is
Yeah.
bringing a lot of work to a lot of people.
Yeah, especially like the higher the budget, the more economic impact, the more people are employed. So yeah, we have a lot of those the high profile shows, but we also do have a healthy sort of local community here too, where we have local producers creating Canadian television series and web series and feature films. Those projects are sort of the meat and potatoes and sort of the backbone of our industry. And sometimes they don't get sort of all the glitz and glamour and the headlines that they should, but there's definitely a core of people that are creating local content as well.
Absolutely. Well, and one of the big ones that's been filming here, it's the 16th season now, is Heartland, one of
Mm.
CBC's gems. And Heartland's been filming here for over a decade. And it too, like it catches a lot of attention because it is so well watched. In fact, I think Heartland has a huge viewership beyond Canada as well, is my
Yeah.
understanding. And that's shot here in rural Alberta and in High River and in other areas pretty much every year.
Yeah. It's such a great success story. So I believe it's the longest running 1 hour Canadian television series. I think they're kind of going head to head with Murdoch Mysteries, but yeah, such a great success story. And I mean, you're right. The people that love that show is global. I remember several years ago when there was the floods happened, and so Heartland did a fundraiser for the town of High River, and so they had one day at the studio where they were allowing 1,000 people in, and they could make a donation and see the stars, and there were some silent auction items, whatever. And so I was there volunteering, helping out, and I mean, walking through the line of the people that had come to this day just to see the stars, and they were hardcore fans. I mean, they were from all over North America,
Mhm.
right? Had flown in specifically for this. Yeah, it's quite a success story. So
Sure is.
hopefully we'll get season 17.
Yeah, right. I know it's the series that just keeps giving. And there's,
Yeah.
the cool thing about it is that Alberta is such a diverse province. I mean, on one side of the province, you have the Rocky Mountains. So, a lot of filming in the Banff and Canmore area and Kananaskis, for things that require that kind of that kind of terrain. Then you've got the prairies, so that's always good for the Fargos and where you're just looking for that place. And then we've got the Drumheller area where, yeah, you can look like a desert over there. So there's a massive amount of change from location to location in Alberta that makes us a really good target for a lot of these productions.
Yeah. I mean, and even, and that's always been like historically been the draw to Alberta is the diversity of locations that we have. So, going back to the Unforgiven days. So that's, over 25 years ago when Clint Eastwood was shooting Unforgiven. I think there's a quote from him saying that the greatest thing about Alberta is you can get 5 different looks, within an hour and a half of the city of Calgary.
It's true. Yeah. Well, and even Kevin Costner was talking about time that he spent shooting in Alberta and how much he absolutely loved the area and just everywhere that he went. Same thing with Brad Pitt when he was here shooting. What was that one? Help me.
First with Legends of the Fall, and then Assassination of Jesse James.
Right. And so he spoke. In fact, people have rumored that he owns a piece of land here and may very well. But he has been quoted saying just how beautiful it was here. And so you're right. It's just that variety and the variety of seasons really lends to, just the beauty of Alberta as well, being a wonderful place to choose. And we have so much shooting here right now. Let's talk about some.
Yes, it's fantastic. And we're still working on for the performers here, we're still working on our 2022 numbers, but now, I mean, I know last year, so 2021, we saw an over 50% increase in days of work for Alberta performers.
Wow.
So that's pretty fantastic. Again, going back to the fact that, a lot of these shows, it's not just the Hollywood stars coming from Los Angeles. There's a lot of local performers that are working on these projects.
So it sounds like ACTRA is growing all the time with members and whatnot. Would you say that's the case here?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, our membership is. I think we have close to 1,400 members. And when I started here over 10 years ago, we had about 600. So.
Okay, so more than doubled. And then, are we short? Do we end up struggling with the amount of productions coming here versus how many members there are available to do these kinds of things?
I mean, it's hard to say with performers because it's a little different than crew members, right? Because so much of our membership has to deal with, how you look or your age. So I know, we've got even if they're not ACTRA members, I mean, Alberta has such a strong performing community, right? Through the theaters that we have in all the major centers. So, I don't think we're short yet of talent because I don't think, we've had the opportunity for everybody to get out there. So, I think it's great talent.
So some of the things that are shooting here, of course, we were talking about Heartland season 16. That's filming into December. We had Joe Pickett season 2 that just wrapped up, it looks like, very recently.
Yeah.
Ride. This is another one that's here filming. Do you know a little bit about Ride?
Yeah. So Ride is it's a story. It's a ranch based contemporary, not a period piece, but so it's based on a ranch. It's sort of like an American version of Heartland, I heard somebody say. So
okay,
similar kind of look and feel with that sort of Western genre. So that's going to be really exciting. And of course, coming up in January, The Last of Us on HBO.
Oh, that's coming back.
Well, they're going to be, I mean, there's talk about them coming back, but then I think everybody's really excited that, I forget the exact date in January, but the first episode is going to air in early January. So that will be super exciting to, they were here for 11 months, shot all over the province, all over, like up in Grand Prairie, down in Waterton. And so even if maybe you're not interested in the video game or the story, I think it still will be a lot of fun just to watch it, just to sort of spot the Alberta locations.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually did a little bit of background work on that one, and that was in High River as well as out in Fort Macleod.
Oh, okay, yeah.
A little further. So yeah, it's always exciting to tune in, even with Heartland, to tune in and see, oh, I recognize that. I've been there. It's always kind of neat for people. And I know The Last of Us needed so many background for some of their big, large scenes. I know they did quite a few in Calgary. So I think there's probably a lot of people who, maybe don't do this regularly and are very much excited to see how it all looks once it starts coming out. So a lot of people waiting for that one.
Well, and that one too, they had like a huge stunt component. There's a lot of action. So a lot of Alberta stunt performers, I mean, who, if you're not sort of entrenched in the industry, yes, we do have a lot of stunt performers here in Alberta. And so it created a lot of work for male and female stunt performers. So that was great.
Yeah, absolutely. And Fargo season 5, we mentioned, that's filming now right through till April.
Yes.
Jan Arden, her show shoots here, and it looks like her holiday special just wrapped up recently.
Correct. Yes.
And then Dark Match. This one is out of Edmonton, filming out of Edmonton. What's the basis of that story?
That one is a wrestling horror story. Yes. So it's a Canadian feature film shooting up in Edmonton. So they just started this week. We're super excited. I think if you're a wrestling fan, when this movie, I of course can't say too much, but if you're a wrestling fan, that'll definitely be something that you'll want to check out. But yeah.
Right. And then I'm probably going to say this terribly wrong. Raffinus?
Raffinus, yes.
Raffinus, thank you. That is the old Fraggle Rock, right?
Yes, it is.
Uh-huh. And that is filming here with puppets.
Fraggle Rock. Yeah, Fraggle Rock shot here. Last year was their first season, and they have a holiday special coming out, I think, in a couple days or this weekend. So of course, everybody's super excited to see the reboot of Fraggle Rock.
Totally. I watched that when I was a kid every Sunday. Every Sunday, I think Fraggle Rock came on, and then it was Disney. I can't remember which order.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And again, that's such a great story for Alberta puppeteers, right?
Absolutely.
That fall under ACTRA's jurisdiction. And so, we're seeing a tremendous amount of work opportunities for our local puppeteers.
And so what do you know? Or I imagine some of it's under wraps, but do you know of other things that will be coming in the new year? Because I feel like is there sort of shooting seasons? It kind of gets quieter around Christmas and through the colder months.
Yeah, I mean, like before, it was sort of our peak shooting season we would always say from like May to October. But now, with the additional production here, it is turning into sort of a year-round series, but things do tend to kind of slow down around December, January, and February.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that too is when some of the smaller productions, the local productions, they might kick off and do some of their work just because they have the access to the crew and the locations and the equipment when some of the big shows aren't happening here. So it definitely is turning into a year-round jurisdiction.
Well, and it certainly doesn't hurt that we have such a huge production facility that's been around now for, gosh, I feel like that's got to be 10 or 15 years now.
Yeah, and the Calgary Film Center. Yes.
Yeah.
So the purpose-built studio space, and then, but because of the province investing in this industry, there's been a lot of private companies that have stepped forward, and so we have several other studio spaces that have been retrofitted from warehouse space, like just sort of your traditional warehouse space, into studio space, causing more, private investment in the province and in the industry. So that's good news too.
So would we say we're booming? Are we in a boom?
We are in a boom. We're 100% in a boom, and and it's looking like it's going to stay that way. I know that.
Can you tell us?
No, I mean, there's a lot of things I don't even know. And some of these projects are kicking tires and, running numbers and looking at crew depth and checking weather patterns and all of this, sometimes like a year in advance.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're feeling very positive for 2023 for sure.
Wonderful. I have heard from the other side of the coin, the technical side from IATSE and some of the unions that supply the grips and the lighting and ADs and all of that kind of stuff that they do from time to time when we have these big booms struggle. And so, it's probably good to be a beacon of having some of these skilled workers coming to Alberta to make up some of this workforce.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I know a lot of the other guilds and unions, as well as ACTRA, like we have really scaled up our training. So, some of our members, who maybe don't have all that experience, we're getting them trained up so that they are ready to take on these roles and to take on these jobs. So yeah, it's exciting in that regard that, we're boosting the training. We're working with post-secondary institutions to get some of these new graduates into the industry. Yeah.
And it's been impressive. I've noticed ACTRA is doing a lot more of that now with this extra training and, just helping. And there's a lot of things people can do if you're interested in getting involved in the film and television industry on the acting or performing side. Lots of different things that people can do to look into it. I mean, you can look into finding agents. And I noticed that ACTRA has linked through on the website to be able to find agents. And then there's auditioning classes you can take in Calgary and in Edmonton, and auditioning and set etiquette classes and even acting classes, of course.
Yep.
So lots people can do, and probably you'd be encouraging that just to.
Absolutely. I mean, again, you hear these stories of, these movie stars that hit it big as they're walking in a mall or something, but those stories are few and far between. A lot of the, to be a working performer, you have to get training. You have to understand your craft. And a lot of our members that even have seen great success and work on a lot of these projects, they're always working on the craft, always taking training. One of the workshops we've been doing a lot of through the summer and into the fall was a dialect workshop. So with Fargo shooting here, they need to have a Minnesota accent.
Oh, right, this is true. Yes.
Right. Which is slightly different than our Canadian A accents. Right. And so we've been running a ton of workshops with our members on how to have that Minnesota accent. And it's working. Right. We're hearing from the casting directors and the producers that our members are nailing it. Right.
Oh, that's pretty fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And with the boom, of course, there's demand. So, hey, if you are interested in learning a little bit more about the film and television industry here in Alberta, it's booming. It needs you. So I think ACTRA is a good place to start. The website has lots of click-through resources for you. Anything else you can suggest for people that are perhaps interested in learning a little bit more?
Well, yeah, probably just start. I mean, if you're based down here in Calgary, you can check out the Calgary Economic Development website. They have a lot of information there and a lot of information that'll link you off. So you can find ACTRA, you can find the technical unions. And if you're in Edmonton, it's the Edmonton Screen Industries office. Their website has a lot of information on there too. So yeah, there's a lot of information on the interweb, and just start there. It'll definitely keep you busy, and we're definitely always looking for people to come and join the fun in our booming sector.
Well, it is fun and it is exciting, and I think there's going to be a lot of work to come. So I definitely encourage people to look into it as well. Tina Alford, branch representative for Alberta ACTRA, and thank you very much for kind of sharing a little bit about what's to come and what we're seeing. And it's I think it really is a good, especially coming out of a pandemic where a lot of people weren't able to work. Fortunately, there was still filming happening, and there was opportunity there as well. So good to see it being so robust.
Yes, yeah, it's a great time right now in the screen industry in Alberta.
Well, thanks for joining us, Tina, and thanks for the update on our film and television industry in Alberta.
Thank you.
Here's an update on the current commodity prices around Lethbridge. Cash barley and wheat are both unchanged, with barley at $4.55 per metric and wheat at $4.80 per metric. Corn's down $2 a ton to $4.73 per metric. Moving to the milling wheat markets, December Minneapolis futures are down 2.5 cents to $9.49 per bushel, with local hard red spring bid for December movement at $12.20 per bushel delivered. Nearby canola futures are down $15.20 per ton to $8.41.90, with delivered values for December movement at $18.86 per bushel. Continuing on to the pulse markets, nearby red lentils remain steady at 33.5 cents, and yellow peas are remaining at $13 per bushel. Taking a quick look at the cattle markets, December live cattle are up 0.5 cent to $153.60 per hundredweight. For more information on pricing and picked up on farm options, give me a call at 403-394-1711. I'm Mike Van Dyke at Marketplace Commodities, accurate real-time marketing information and pricing options.
Canadian Shooting Sports Association. Without the CSSA, our gun rights would have been taken long ago. These guys are on the front lines helping to draft smart and intelligent firearms regulations and legislation in Canada, and more importantly, educating the public about how we keep guns out of the hands of the wrong people. You become a member, it's absolutely worth every penny. You can become a Western Standard member for just $10 a month or $99 a year for